we're gonna forego the introduction part of the show until right when it's time to get on live. But um, I'll get rid of that echo. But these first few minutes, basically what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and um, share the platform, share the platform, share the platform. Get a better update from last week to this week. You know, we had some good, intelligent conversation last week. We want to continue that conversation, but I'm trying something new. I'm trying to get in a few minutes before the hour to kind of see what the kind of crowd actually pushes out there. So, as normal, please share, share, share. And at the 8 o'clock moment, that's when I'm going to actually um, cue the music, cue everything, go live. We got a special conversation going on, so get your popcorn. In about 3 or 4 minutes, we're gonna go on full live and in living color to discuss what's gonna go down next week Tuesday. What's up for stake for next week Tuesday? What things are on the ballot? Who we should be looking for? Who we shouldn't be looking for? Um, how they're trying to buy the black vote in our community, not just in Savannah, Georgia, Chatham County, across the whole state of Georgia, how the black vote is trying to be bought. It's serious out here, y'all. It's real serious out here. We really, 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 really need to be paying attention. And we've had record turnout as far as who's showing up to the polls. So stay tuned for this good, encouraging conversation as we go into Tuesday. I did not get a chance. I was on the road, so I didn't get a chance to get the closeout numbers, but I know we were close to about 17,000 votes 2 days ago. So hopefully we're right at the 20,000 vote mark. If we're at the 20,000 vote mark, we're a little over 10% as far as voter participation is concerned. It's better than normal, but we could be doing better than that. So um, it's some very, very key election pieces out there that we really need to have healthy conversations on. So, I need y'all to make sure we sharing, getting the word out. Just do it, y'all. Just go ahead and get the word out. Because when we start at 8 o'clock, we're gonna get moving and grooving in this conversation. So, shouts out to everybody who took the time to be out here with me a couple of minutes early. It's so very, very important that we move our narrative forward, people. The state of Georgia is up for sale, y'all. It's up for sale. We're going to talk about what's going on the Republican side. We're going to talk about what's going on the Democratic side. We're going to talk about economics. We're going to talk about everything, the vision, how the black vote has been outcasted and been used and abused and not getting its just due. We're just gonna have a good candid conversation today. So I encourage you, next 3 minutes, do what you gotta do, get your popcorn ready, go to the restroom, feed your dog, walk your dog, take that 2 minute walk down the street with your dog. Get ready for this courageous conversation that we want to have here at the 8 o'clock mark. We're only going to give you an hour, but I gave an extra 5 minutes to kind of get that audience ready to roll. So, like I said, get your popcorn ready, get everything rolling. Get ready for this courageous conversation because it needs to be had, needs to be said. This is my week two of our show, week two of our show. So, I'm just happy to be back live in living color, talking to my people, talking to church, my people, talking to my people. What's getting ready to happen probably toward the end of this year is crucial. Um, Georgia could be in the balance of losing a state senate seat if we do not start working toward making sure we get the right person in office. The UGA running back is running through all 159 states with his bus, and we want to make sure that his bus stop ends right here in Georgia, and he can take that bus back to Texas where he came from. But there's some courageous conversations about that we really need to have in reference to that. But I'm not going to really get into too much meat of the program because it's 7:58. 7:58 got 1 minute left, and 1 minute. I'm going to tune in the introduction so we can get this show flowing. But I just want to get in here a little bit early so I can see what the breakdown really is, because it's so important for us to make sure we get a balanced show, get a balanced program, get everything rolling and rolling and rolling. And so with that being said, it is what it is. We cannot we cannot afford to allow ourselves to be bamboozled rat them up, let us stray. We must stand up and stand up for something. All right, I'll see y'all in about 3 or 4 minutes. Peace. Good morning, good people. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good people. How y'all doing? Hold just a second. The following show is a broadcast of ATR Media. The views, opinions, and statements made by the host and or their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of ATR Media or its sponsors. Okay, so we got the legalities out the way. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. It is good somewhere out there, but we need to have a courageous conversation today. We had one last week, and we had this is show number 2, back in the saddle, and it's good to be back. But just being back is just not the answer. It's good to be back. And so with us being back, I just want to have a good conversation with y'all, man. What do y'all know about May the 24th? May the 24th is election day for the state of Georgia. What that means is the primary. The primary is finally here. All the contested races up and down that ballot finally here, y'all. We finally get to see who is going to be on the Democratic ticket, who's going to be on the Republican ticket, and basically who's going to be in World War III starting May the 25th for the state of Georgia. The rights of the state of Georgia is up for election. So, first thing I wanted to talk about, y'all see y'all boy Trump done abandoned David Perdue. He told David Perdue catch the right bus back home. He didn't even let Herschel come by and pick him up. Did y'all see how Trump let David Perdue down? And so, with that being said, we are probably looking forward to a Kemp versus Stacey election come for November the 8th, and it's going to be a shootout like no other. So we're looking at the governor who stole the election in 2018 running against the person who should be the governor, but has changed a complete strategy from 2018 to a whole new revolutionary strategy. So my thing is not to break down her strategy, because my thing is y'all conscious enough to get out there and learn what's different about her campaign and what's not the same according to what happened 4 years ago. But just want to understand that it is a whole different strategy, and I hope it works out for the betterment of us in Georgia, because we need to get that outline of Georgia blue to kind of bleed into the interior blue. Because I'll say it if nobody else say it, Georgia is purple, and what makes it purple is the exterior is blue because our federal seats are becoming blue, but the interior of Georgia is still bloody red. And we got to get rid of that blood stain, and we got to make that thing purple, then turn it blue completely in one swoop. So I am praying hard that we can follow through on that situation and move this state forward in turning it blue. So back to what I was saying about David Perdue. David Perdue, he got Sarah Palin supposed to be coming down to Chatham County, not Chatham County, I'm sorry, Bryan County to stir up votes. But when I read the news article, guess what? They said Palin probably going to abandon him now that Trump has abandoned him, because you know what? All of them do this in that party structure. If they see that they ain't got a chance of winning, they abandon ship before it comes time for that ship to sail. And so Purdue, guess what? You getting ready to be sitting back home down there in South Georgia. You're a rich man. You can find something else to do, but you won't be running for governor. And so that means, once again, we got the rematch of the Kemp versus Stacey Abrams. And Stacey Abrams is hitting the trails, riding around city to city, state to state, throughout the state of Georgia. Hopefully she can bring this thing home, because you know what? The only person I think that can beat Kemp is the one that Kemp stole it from. And guess what, Stacey? I hope you do your job. Now, with that being said, this ballot has gotten real tricky, matriculating all the way down the ballot. So I'm almost foreseeing a runoff in the primary for the first election, which is lieutenant governor. Lieutenant governor has 9 candidates running for lieutenant governor. And that is very important, because let's say Stacey wants to make a run for president. If she wants to make a run for president, let's say Biden doesn't want to run for president again, and Stacey wants to make a run for president, then the lieutenant governor will assume responsibility until that time where we can find somebody else to replace them. So that's why that lieutenant governor is very important. But the second piece, what makes that lieutenant governor so important, is the fact that that lieutenant governor is the president, or whatever, the speaker, lead speaker, whatever he is, over the state senate. And that's a very crucial environment to be in, because if you get Stacey Abrams in the Gold Dome, or what is perceived the White House of Atlanta, Georgia, in the state of Georgia, then she's going to need a strong Senate and a strong House to be able to pass some reformative laws that can change the narrative of Georgia, not just being a blue state, but a blue legislated agenda ran state. And so that's so important that we make sure that the 56 people who are running for state senate, and I believe there's about 38 of us that are tied to the Democratic Party, we got to make sure that we have the balance in favor of the Democratic Party, so we can make sure that the big house of the two houses are strong. So we got 56 people in that house. I believe the balance is about 29. So you need about 29 Democrats to actually have a majority. But you don't want a majority. You want a strong majority. Just in case we have some flaky people up there, we want a strong majority. So we want a balance of about 30 people, at least 30 people that hold those Democratic cards. Now, 13 people are already locked in the seats that are Democratic friendly seats. So we need a balance of another 20, 25 seats to actually hold weight within the state of Georgia. So that's so important as far as the conversation is concerned. I don't know why we don't talk about it as much, but that's going to be a strong conversation coming March the 24th, when Stacey is confirmed as the person that will be on the ballot for the Democratic Party. Now, the second piece is that House seat. Those House seats are a little bit stronger, a little bit more House seats. We're talking about a balance of 100, I think it's 180 seats over there in the House. I'm talking about the state House. When you're talking about 180 seats in the state House, then we need to make sure that we have at least 95 to 100 of those seats in Democratic terms, as far as the balance being in charge in the small House as well. And so it's so important for us to make sure that we look at up and down that ballot, making sure we vote not just for our favorite teacher or our favorite person, all the way down the ballot to the bottom part where we know the characters are at. We need to make sure that that state, the lieutenant governor seat, going back to the initial conversation, is filled with the right person, because the balance of power lies within that seat. Now, the third person, which is the Secretary of State in my book. Secretary of State, the power of voting rights was stripped away from the Secretary of State's office. Now, it was moved over to a legislative body tied to a group of people from the legislative body that makes all those determining laws and rules and everything like that. It was stripped in House Bill 202 last year, which is the actual legal document now. And so what we got to do is we got to get the right base of people in there so we can get rid of that and bring back some continuity as far as voting rights are concerned, and restore the power back into the Secretary of State's hands, because we need it in a separate body, not tied in legislative body, but a separate body, making the rules, making the determination of what needs to be determined in that conversation. So that Secretary of State is very important, but they also drive the business sector of our community as well. And so making sure we have the right Secretary of State that gives a balance of what's going on in this community is prevalent as far as entrepreneurship, strong businesses, strong DBE programs. Everything related to that piece right there is tied to that Secretary of State's office as far as driving the narrative of business. Now, driving the narrative of labor, making sure we have the right kind of labor situations, is the Labor Commission. So that next seat is the Labor Commission. So when you talk about this Labor Commission seat, it's very, very important as well, because that person ensures that these jobs, the so-called economy and the so-called job that's out there prevalent in our community, that these jobs are getting into the right hands so we can move the narrative of poverty, crime, unemployment, even how bad the school system could be in our community. How we drive those narratives is having a good labor force out there, or a good means of being able to participate in a labor force out there. That's why that labor commission is so important. Now, I done heard promises of this and promises of that, and I'm not going to talk too much about those promises. One thing I can promise you is this: somebody need to open up all these buildings across the state of Georgia, because you know what? All these labor commission buildings have been closed going on 2 years. Now, I'm scared of COVID just like everybody else, but some way, somehow, we should have been doing a better job of getting the narrative of employment back out there. But we didn't have a good labor commissioner in the place. So now is the opportunity. Now is the time for us to be able to find somebody who's relevant to run for the labor commission seat. Now we got 4 people running for labor commission seat. Now I'm not gonna call names out on this show because I did it last week, and if you didn't see it, go back to ATAR old files and look back at last week's show, because I call all the names out as far as what's going on with that, because I had the paper in front of me. I don't have the paper in front of me now. And yes, I got in my head who I voted for all the way down the ballot, but I'm not going to do that again today even. If you missed the show, go back. It's viewable. It's on my page. It's on ATR page. It's on our ATR YouTube. So go back and look at that show, because it's very important for you to understand who else is on the ballot. So insurance commissioner is the next commissioner. Yes, we got a lot of commissioners on this ballot, y'all. So insurance commissioner is going to talk about regulation of insurance. And so we need somebody who's going to be in that office to make sure regulation insurance is fair and equitable for everybody. Now, we've been getting the railroad issues as far as insurance concerned, because the insurance commissioner can regulate their own rates. They can regulate their own terms. And so if you go back and look at them disclosure forms of the last few people who've been in that seat, they've been eating, and guess what? They've been eating off of me and you. And so whoever comes out of that Democratic Party, as far as insurance commissioner, I'm gonna call them. If they don't come, they don't come. I can't argue with them, but I'm gonna call them and say, hey man, we need you to come down here and talk to South Georgia, because it's so important for us to talk about these insurance rates, because y'all don't think about the rural people. Y'all don't think about all these other people that's down here outside Metro Atlanta. It's so important for have these conversations. The next one is the Ag Commissioner. The Agriculture Commissioner is so important, because that is the elimination of food deserts. That is products as far as farming, as far as dairy products, as far as corn, as far as cotton, as far as any kind of product that is actually grown in the state of Georgia. And they say state of Georgia is one of them states that grow a lot of stuff. And so it's so important for us to make sure that we have the right agriculture commissioner in play. Once again, all these seats I'm calling out right now, if you go to my page, and I'll bring it to the top of my page after the Zoom. But if you go to my page, we've had video conversations with about 90% of these people. Now, some people flaked on us. They didn't actually want to talk to us, and that's a good thing. So my thing is, I will go through the videos and make your own judgment calls as far as these statewide seats are concerned. And so the next piece that I want to focus on is the Attorney General, and that should have been one of the top 3. It's only 2 people running for the Attorney General, but though that seat is important, because all the lawsuits we need to be filing in the state of Georgia, that Attorney General is going to be responsible for filing all those lawsuits. And so that person is very, very important. Now, there are some lawsuits that need to be filed in the state of Georgia to protect the rights of African Americans, and y'all know where I sit. I'm going to speak up and talk up for all my Black people, because you know what? We're the ones that get left out in all these conversations. We're not the ones at the top of the table. Sometimes we're at the bottom of the plate. And so therefore, we need to make sure that all those conversations, the Attorney General, when they talk about going after all these corporations, going after all these entities, these bad counties with these voter suppression laws and everything under the sun, we need to make sure that we're having those conversations with the Attorney General. And that Attorney General has to understand the Black community and the Black problems. They just can't be sending articles and put things on the radio. They need to actually come and visit the hood and see what's going on in our communities and start speaking up for the things we don't know to speak up for. And that's how important that Attorney General seat really, 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 really is. And so I done talked to Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, Ag Commissioner, Insurance Commissioner, so Labor Commissioner. So PSC, you have Public Service Commission seats. You have 2 Public Service Commissioner seats on the ballot this go round. One of the people actually resigned, so therefore his seat came open. Public service commissioner number 2 for the second district. That's the first one. That's the first one. Public Service Commissioner 2. That's the first one. That's Patty Durant. Patty Durant, she's running unopposed. She did have somebody on the ballot against her, and that'd be the only name I dropped because she's running unopposed. She's the only candidate of all those races I spoke of running unopposed. And I just want to make sure it's clear that Patty Durant is running unopposed. The person she's running against is on city council somewhere in Athens, I believe. And he's no longer running on the ballot. And so therefore, she's the only one running unopposed outside of Stacey, of course. And so those two people are running unopposed. So those two people are the only two people I would name drop today because they're running unopposed. So I can say their names because if they go on the booth and vote for themselves, then guess what? They're guaranteed to be on the ballot come November. And so the next person I want to talk about is Public Service Commissioner District 3. And so there are 2 seats, Public Service Commissioner. When you think of Public Service Commissioner, think of the number 10. And the 10 acronym stands for T is anything dealing with telecommunications. Telecommunications is T. So internet, the telephone, anything dealing with telecommunications is T. E is electricity. Electricity. Electricity is the second point, and the last one is natural gas. And see, we don't talk as much about natural gas, but that's what the acronym. When you think about the Public Service Commissioner, I always throw out the acronym 10 because it's 10 items that associate with those 3 things, and I don't remember it offhand. But the acronym 10 always reminds me: telecommunications, electricity, and natural gas. Those are the 3 components that are held under the Public Service Commissioner. Putting the right kind of people in that kind of situation works well. Now, I've used 10, I've used net, and and it's the same thing. It's interchangeable. We gotta watch the real net, natural gas, electricity, and telecommunications. But if you think about Public Service Commissioner, and 2 of those seats are up for election, just like in 2020, 2 of those seats were up for election. Now, mind you, if we were the one on those 2 seats in 2020, these two people, and it's going to be 2 ladies because it's the random 1 seat, and it's going to be another female because there's only 3 females running the other seat. But between these 2 ladies, we could have fixed all our electricity problems, all our telecommunication problems, all our natural gas problems in 1 swoop come January of next month. But guess what? Now we got to wait another 4 years because those 2 seats come up in another 4 years because the Public Service Commission seat is a 6-year term. Unless you're fulfilling the expired term, it's a 6-year term. So the balance of power is going to be tied to a 6-year term in one of those seats, and the other seat will be 6 years. So what we got to make sure we keep a close eye on these Public Service Commission seats, because if we can flip 2, then we'll have 2 of 5 of the Public Service Commissions for the state of Georgia. And that puts us 1 step closer to being able, to fix the narrative of what's going on in the state of Georgia. So that's your Public Service Commission seats. Now, did I miss anything? Okay, back to our federal seats. All right, federal seats. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of things. You have 3 people running for U.S. Congress. You have people talking about the insurrection back in January 6th. You have people talking about being fired up, ready to roll. And you also got people talking about military experience. So in my balance of my book, we have 3 qualified people that actually can run and be in that seat. Now, yeah, contrary to opinion, what I say on social media, contrary to opinion, what I say in the general world, the general census, you have 3 people who have the right and who can give a good fight for Buddy Carter, especially when you have Stacey at the top of the ticket. Now, there's a couple of things we need to do to clean house, but I'm not going to talk about those things to clean house until next Friday. I promise you, I'll update you on next Friday once we have a contingency plan of what we can look at as far as the balance of the ballot looks like. Because like I said before, I foresee a couple of these seats that I called out, a couple of these seats will have primary runoffs. And so my thing is, I don't want to skew anybody's conversation into anything that needs to happen. And yes, Ivan, the ag commissioner, I did have a conversation with both of them, and we did not do one for the attorney general. However, I will get you information on behalf of the both of the attorney general candidates, so you can make a good opinion of who you think is best servant as far as in the attorney general's position is concerned. So that's the balance of the ballot for the state of Georgia. When you go into the federal seats, I talked about the U.S. congressional seat, and then we also have a U.S. Senate seat. So Warnock, who is the sitting U.S. senator, he's a sitting U.S. senator. He does have opposition from a young lady, Tamara Shealy Johnson. She is the reparation young lady. She's pushing out her agenda. She's pushing out her efforts. I think that Warnock and her have a debate as far as what's going on, who you feel is best for you. I'm not going to give you the address. I'm just going to give you the two names that are actually running on the federal race. And so I hope you catch it. I hope y'all spread it, and I hope you research who these people are. They have good platforms. One is already sitting in office, and one is trying to get in office. And so my thing is, in the balance of a true conversation, I do not want to lean one left to the right. And so I just want to make sure it's understood that there is a challenge between the two people right there. And so now we're going to maneuver back into local politics. In local politics, you have a plethora of judge seats and everything like that. And so one of these seats is ironic because it's a young man who I called and tried to give him help on some campaign stuff, understanding that didn't know what party he was from, anything like that, but he had a sign down. And when I called him, he didn't, when he answered the phone, I told him who I was. He said, well, okay, thank you, whatever. When I gave him help as far as trying to put his sign up, and he didn't want any help, and from that point forward, I have nothing to say to him. But I don't think that he's really running for this election. I think he's running for an election in 2 years. He's actually building his base up for that election in 2 years. And I had that conversation once he's out of the race next week, because I don't think he's going to make it past Tuesday. But it's three men, so y'all have to figure out who I'm talking about. I'm not putting the name out there. Y'all figure it out. It's three people running. Y'all figure it out. Now, I will say that I was waiting on somebody to give me a call. He did not give me a call. However, and if you want to know what I'm talking about, you can catch last week's show. It tells you all these characters. I'm doing this on purpose to see if you're looking at my shows. If you're not looking at my shows, then you're not going to keep up with the energy. This week, I'm not going to do what I did last week because we're closer to the balance of the election. Today was the last day of early voting. Today was the last day of early voting. So tomorrow, I will be looking at the numbers to see how many people closed out as far as early voting is concerned. I'll do a comparison analysis to 2020 and a comparison analysis to 2018. I can tell you that only 3,500, a little over 3,500 people had requested ballots for this election in Chatham County. So with only 3,500 requested absentee ballots, a little over 3,500 requested absentee ballots, we're going to see stronger turnout in the early voting phases, and we're going to see a stronger turnout in actual voting phases. So these two conversations are very, very important, because if you experience hardship or troubles at these polls, I'm going to tell you, give me a call. Give me a call. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. Give me a call, 912-228-2205. That's my cell phone number. It's a public private number. People call me, text me all the time in reference to what they need to do and how they need to work. So I don't have no problem giving it out. Matter of fact, they probably got it bugged and tased and everything like that on this son. So whatever conversation it is, if it's a personal conversation, I'm probably gonna call you and ask you to meet me somewhere, because I want to have that conversation one-on-one. I don't want to have that conversation above water, and that's very, very, very important for us to have these conversations above water here in these sectors. So with that being said, where was I at? Going to the next set of seats is the school board seats. Now the school board seats is going to be funny, because the school board, the president seat, is going to probably push for a runoff. Now, you have one guy who has close to 80, 90, $100,000 in the bank. And my thing is, it's going to have a hard time getting anybody to cross over and vote for him. And so that situation is a moot point because of the money, because it's a nonpartisan seat, because Republicans and Democrats can vote for that seat. He's going to get the large majority in my thought process of the votes. And the other two people, one of the other two people will get the balance of the votes and will come in second. But I will tell you just like this, whichever one of the two in the balance of the votes coming second will actually be the one who wins it in the primary runoff. Because you know why? That race is really down the line against the have and the have-nots. And the haves are trying their hardest to make sure they control the haves. But the have-nots are going to show up and show out in that election. So I'm not going to give the balance. Now, if you want to know who I probably was favoring, you probably want to look at last week's show because I probably talked about it last week. But this week, I'm not talking about it. This week, all I'm doing is hyping you up to make sure you show up to the polls on Tuesday. I'm not going. If you want to know, I gave you my phone number. If you want to know who I voted for, or give you want to know what's the best balance or whatever case may be, I'll tell you who I voted for. But I cannot share with you. I cannot push you or encourage you to vote for the same people I voted for because that would be against my ethical code as far as what I do and what I say. Now, I will help you with the balance of understanding, like Mr. Ivan said. He didn't hear anything for the Ag Commission, and we have a show on the Democratic Party side. They have a show talking about that piece. So I will forward that link to you, Mr. Ivan. But as far as the Attorney General is concerned, what I would do is I will forward you 2 links. I will forward you each one of the candidates' links, and it'd be up to you to take the time to go ahead and look through their website, their page, and everything like that to kind of figure out which one's best for you. So back to our conversation, school board. So with that being said, the 4th district, which is uncontested, so Sean Cashmore will walk back in his seat. Once he goes in the booth and votes for himself, he's pretty much affirmed that he will be doing another 4 years in the school board. And the people out there in the 4th district, it would seem like y'all having some of the most expensive properties in the district as far as Chatham County is concerned. Y'all would want to know what the balance of that money and how it's flowing. Y'all will want to understand the best narrative. Now, mind you, if Sean Cashmore is the one that you want to go with, cool. I ain't got no quarrel with that. Me and Sean are good people. Sean and me have talked in the past. I have no quarrel with that. This is not endorsement, shout out for Sean or anything like that. But I just don't have an issue with Sean because Sean's always been a straight up guy. Anytime I've asked questions, anytime I've asked about a narrative, anything like that, he's always been straight up. Now, going to those contested races. Contested race number 1. Now, I can talk about these because these races are nonpartisan races. So I can talk about these open record conversation. You got in the 5th district, you got Teresa, Trey, and Paul. Teresa, Trey, and Paul. I like you, Trey, but I think, Trey, this might be a little bit over your head. Sis, I think that you just need to get back in the gut and try to learn what's going on in the political world, political realm. I don't take away from you as far as your political capital is concerned. I just want you to get a greater balance of what we need to be doing when it comes to school board. The next person is Teresa. Teresa, with much respect, I think you have the wisdom to be able to be the their narrator for the 5th district. I just don't think you have the support to make sure that makes that happen. I think Paul is a classmate of mine. Paul is Paul, even though I don't agree with everything Paul does, I think for the balance or the greater good of the 38,000 people in the system, I think Paul would best serve us as far as in that school board seat is concerned. And Paul, by no means, this is an endorsement. This is an accountability statement that I will hold you behind accountable. And so it's so important that, he was supported by Irene Hines. It's just a lot to overcome. I think Teresa is a great asset. I think she's got the union ties. I think she's got the knowledge, the working knowledge, and everything under the sun. But I think Paul is going to pull a balance out of it, and he's going to pull out the victory. And it's not going to require a runoff because I just think Paul is going to be able to get that 50 plus 1% to be able to take it out the gate. Now, the next seat, because I've already talked to president. And I'm not going to get into the conversation about president because it's tied to relationships out there. And once Tuesday commences Friday, I will get that to you. All right. So I've already talked about the 4th. I talked about the 5th. Let's talk about the 6th. I'm David. David's going to probably pull this one out on the strength of David showed up to the last few debates. The young man, I listened to him. I had conversations with him, everything like that. Even in some of those conversations, I tried to advise him because I know his family, and I'm talking about Mr. Paget. I know his family. I know his roots. I know where he comes from. Strong brother. I just don't think this time right here, he's going to be able to pull it out over David Brigham because my thing is, it's too much to overcome. Now, you may have David in the corner. You may have David conversating, but David was free flowing in the church the other day, and I think that's going to pull it out for him. Plus, he's got a lot of connectivity going on in the Georgetown community and the South Side, Windsor Forest area. Once again, this is not an endorsement because David, in the past, I did not hold you accountable. In the future, I will be holding you accountable. So don't take this as an endorsement. Take this as a conversation that I'm having when I'm going down the 6th district and I'm talking to people. This is the conversation that's being brought back to me. And so my thing is I'm just echoing the conversation. But these next 4 years will be a different kind of standard that you will be held to. And my thing is I'm going to hold you to that standard, period. Going to the 8th district, I just don't think the young lady is strong enough to take out Tanya Howard Hall. Tanya Howard Hall is a veteran. I mean, she's a veteran in the military, but Tanya Howard Hall is a veteran here in this community. She's been on the, she's been a teacher, parapro, all the other good stuff. Like she understands the mechanics of the school system. I even told somebody else that Polly had a better chance in the school board president race than she does in the 8th district, because in the 8th district is just too much to overcome. I think Port Wentworth is strong for Tanya. Garden City is strong for Tanya. Augusta Ave is strong for Tanya. The Highlands is strong for Tanya. All these areas are strong for Tanya. So it's going to be a real hard cliche to actually overcome Tanya in her backyard. And then the other thing is, Polly, we know your party affiliation. And the truth is that has seeped out. We saw you with the current school board state superintendent. And you know what? I didn't talk about that race. The state school board superintendent. It's so important that when we put these conversations out here, you don't let everybody know what everybody should know. And so that's one of them conversations that people are having, those backdoor conversations, and they see you. And my thing is, me and a military vet is good in certain areas of the community, but the community you're running for, it doesn't, nothing, no pun intended. My dad is a 20 year vet, and he worked 20 years in the post office. He's diehard military, diehard principles, anything like that. Nothing against the military, but you're in a district in a community that doesn't have strong enough military roots to push that whole military conversation. Shouts out to everybody who's in the military. I'm a military brat myself, so I mean I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying there's not enough to catapult you into that seat. So those are my those are my 3 seats right there. I think we will have the balance. And what I mean by the balance, we'll have the balance of the school board figured out by Tuesday, and it won't be until a week, 28 days later, where we will know who the school board president will be, because that's going to be a tight race. And my thing is, I will go into full conversation next week Friday about the school race, because by that time I will know exactly who we need to be talking about. So with that being said, next conversation we're going to go into are your state seats locally. Well, before I go state seat locally, let me go and talk about the school state superintendent. There's 4 people running, but 5 people running, but 2 people are phenomenal. 2 people phenomenal. And so I think it's going to be a runoff in that race too, because I think there's going to be enough balanced votes coming down where it's going to push for a runoff in the state school superintendent seat. and I think whichever one balances wins, that's going to push for a good race when it comes to November is concerned. Whoever wins the balance of that one, and that's going to probably be my favorite candidate, because I'm going to have them on Zoom every other week talking about what they're doing for the 2nd congressional district, 1st congressional district, 8th congressional district, 12th congressional district, 9th congressional district, 10th congressional district, all those congressional districts that sit on the balance or the outskirts of Metro Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to ask, what are you going to do for us? The 14, all those districts sit on the outside balance. And so it's going to be so important for us to have that candid conversation. That state school superintendent seat will go into a runoff. It's going to be a good race to see on runoff on. And so back into the saddle, back to where I was going. All right. So we have board of election seats, and then we also have board of election seats, and then we also, well, I'm just going to go into board of election seats first. Board of election seats. Now, that is the only thing that's partisan locally that qualifies through the local jurisdiction, the local county. And so If you don't know anything about the Board of Election seats, you have 2 board election seats over here, and you got 2 board of election seats over here. So it's 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. The 4 of them collaborate together and get together to make a conversation about who becomes the chair. Now, with that being said, I just want to understand this piece right here. Now, without giving a balance or conversation or anything like that under the sun, because I traditionally don't get into picking and choosing when it comes to party affiliated pieces that are tied directly to where my jurisdictions outside of the hat of being Jimmy J actually actually is good for you in good conversation. So with that being said, you have 2 incumbents running against 2 people who are not incumbents. 2 incumbents run against 2 people who are not incumbents. I said it last week and I'll say it again. I did not ask anybody to run for public office. People come to me and they say, James, do you think I should run? And yes, I could say, nah, I think we're in a good shape as far as what we're running for. No, I didn't do that. I made sure all 4 candidates got qualified because that's my job. My job is to make sure everybody gets qualified. That's my only job. We did that in 2020. We did that in 2022. And I don't know who's going to be in charge in 2024, but I'm going to make sure that we do that in 2024 as well, too, because I'm going to encourage everybody named Mama to run for county commission. I'm going to encourage everybody named Mama to run for tax commission. I'm going to encourage everybody named Mama to run for sheriff. We've already got 2 or 3 people already talking about running for sheriff against Johnny Welcher. So Johnny, better get your shoots ready because we got a couple people ready, geared up, ready to run against you for sheriff. And so the other piece is the coroner, and these seats right here, all 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 seats right here will be up for election in 2024, and they can qualify through partisanship, through the party. It's the greatest fundraiser in the world. And you know who taught me that? The DPG. Yes, we call that the greatest fundraiser because you know what? We encourage as many people as possible to run for public office because you know what that did? You know what that did by encouraging people to run for office? It increased the number of people showing up to vote. And that is so important that we need to make sure these things happen. So I'm just fast forwarding it. 2024, we're going to have that courageous conversation because I don't know who's going to be in charge of the party then. But locally speaking, we will make sure all those seats are contested the way they need to be contested. I assure you that. Now I can promise that because you know what? I'll make sure that whenever that qualifying period is, whether I'm invited or not, I'll be there that whole week just to ensure that everybody gets their just due as far as running for public office. And I did not skip over in 2023, City of Savannah. So y'all tired of these issues in City of Savannah? I said it in the text. I said it in a message the other day. If you're tired of the balance of City of Savannah, now mind you, I'm not going to sit here and say the 6 are right and the 3 are right. I'm not going to sit there. I think all 9 people need to go into a room, put the gloves on, shut the door, and come out as mutually understanding we all serve Savannah. Now, I'm not going to sit here. I know I'm going to get cussed out because they're going to say, well, James, you shouldn't say that because you know it's unfair on this side. And then the other side, they ain't even going to call me. I understand it, but I'm going to be nonpartisan, non-partial in my conversation because you know what? I think justice is going to be served come November of 2023 when we get the right people showing up to the ballot to run for office in August of 2020, August of 2023. So in August they qualify, in November they run. And guess what? Garden City is going to be up for election, and I see that Garden City is going to end up just like Port Wentworth. Now y'all can dog out Port Wentworth. We're going to Port Wentworth, but they've been getting along quite well lately. You know what the problem was in Port Wentworth? You had a group of people who was in control, and eating off another group of people who had no idea they were being eaten on and no idea that they had control in the numbers and everything like that. And they just poof woke up and said, guess what? We want to control the narrative. And all they did was change the conversation. You know what I'm saying? So change the conversation. I wasn't in that room, so I can't say if it was done or not. So all they did was change the narrative, change the conversation. So you know what? Guess what? The balance will be challenged. The balance will be challenged. The balance will be challenged. And we're going to keep challenging these balances and challenge these balances until we can't balance no more. And my thing is, I'm going to have my conversation with you. And watch this. I'm going to attempt to conversate with you. And if you don't attempt to answer my phone call, then I'm going to attempt to remove you. That's how I'm playing it now. From now on, 2023. I didn't say it before. I am no longer bound by the local chair seat after this year here. So that means my politics become freestanding politics in Chatham County. And that's in any jurisdiction in Chatham County. And so Garden City, Savannah, City of Savannah, Port Wentworth has a couple of seats up too. Bloomingdale is closed. Tybee Island, I think, has a couple of seats as well. Thunderbolt, I think, is closed. I've seen like I'm missing somebody. Pooler seats are up too. And y'all better hope I win, because if I don't win, I might run for Pooler City Council. Because you know what? I'm just enjoying just running and just causing all kind of chaos. It gives me an opportunity to be able to talk and speak freely. And you know what? This is the best $400 ever spent, because guess what? Starting in June, when I really start doing what I need to do, that's when I'm going to really have fun. Because guess what? I don't care about winning. I care about running, because the simple fact is nobody stepped up to run. And everybody and their mama has come up to me and said, well, Jay, can you even win that seat? But you know what? None of y'all have even stepped foot to try to actually take out the seat and see if this seat could be won or lost. And so I'm going back, because I went off cue, back to my Board of Election seats, because I want to make sure I clear out my Board of Election seat conversation. Back to my Board of Election seats. So with regards to those Board of Election seats, they're very, very important, because the balance of power within our confine is structured through the Board of Election seats. So if the last 4 years you've been going to the voting booth and you have not seen any progress, you need to talk to those Board of Election people, because the Board of Elections has the power to move seats around and actually change where we need to be changing, and moving the narrative forward. And so it's so important that we have these courageous conversations, because when we have these courageous conversations, we can change the narrative. And the Board of Elections is probably the most important seats on the ballot, especially coming from this election cycle, because they're the ones who control the narrative of all the ballot pieces. And so when we have these conversations, these courageous conversations, as one of my good friends like to say, courageous conversations. As we have these courageous conversations, the Board of Election probably is the greatest balance seat that we can come up with, because I want it to be clear. I want this to be clear, crystal clear. The people we elected in 2018 went against the community. The community wanted a change at the leadership from the Board of Elections. The community wanted a change of leadership at the Board of Elections. I'm going to say it again, because y'all didn't care. Y'all need to go back and read and research. See, y'all don't talk about this and y'all don't have these conversations. But the community had expressed they wanted change in 2019 when we elected brand new Board of Elections people. We wanted a change of leadership with the Board of Elections. We did not get it. The same Thomas Mahoney, and I will say his name because he is the only person on the Board of Election that is not elected. He is appointed, and he was reappointed after we went through a debacle in 2018's election. After the 2018's election was stolen, it was all kind of situations that was privy to the current board chair for the Board of Elections, Thomas Mahoney. He was a Board of Elections chair going into 2018. During the Stacey Abrams election, he was a chair. He did all kind of erroneous things in 2018 during that election cycle. And the people who got put on the Board of Elections, in 2018, the people who won, and I'm talking Democrats and Republicans, the people who won in 2018 reappointed Thomas Mahoney, who messed up the 2018 elections in Chatham County. But y'all don't talk about that. Y'all don't talk about that. I don't hear that conversation being mentioned. But those same four people are responsible for giving us Thomas Mahoney back. And we had issues with the Board of Elections in 2019 when the city of Savannah election was going on. We had issues in 2020 when Chatham County election was going on. And we had issues in 2021 probably. And we just didn't discuss it loud enough because we had some changes. The same issues. So my thing is, if the same issues are concerned, then we need to look at the balance of those people who are running for public office. Because I agree. One of the candidates out there said it best. I agree with him. There's no transparency. But within the transparency, you go back to 2018, when we elected these people, they brought back the same person who should have not had the opportunity to get reelected. Now, I ain't saying no names other than Thomas Mahoney, but if you want to know, you can Google those people who got elected in 2018 and come to your own conclusion. And I can guarantee the Republicans feel the same way about what I'm just saying, because you know what? They got this shit into the stick too. I'm sorry. I cuss. I apologize. They got the bad end of the stick too. And so guess what? If we're not willing to step up and learn how important these seats are, we're going to keep getting the same crap that we've always been getting. Now, once again, I ain't calling no names out, but everything is researchable. All you got to do is put in 2018 Board of Election candidates that won, and booyah, there's the information right there. And if we're not willing to do that, because we don't want to have them courageous conversations, we don't want to call out the balance of power and people like that, because people know how to talk good in front of us and do all that stuff like this. Like I said before, I agree with what one of the candidates says. One of the candidates said, I'm telling you, there's no transparency. And I called it out. And I said, you know what? I meant to call Billy, I'll give you a call on Monday. I meant to call the Board of Elections people about that, but I got caught up on the road. But guess what? That's right. There is no transparency. When you look at the minutes are unreadable. The minutes are unreadable. When you go to the minutes, they're unreadable. So you mean to tell me y'all having meetings for 25, 30 minutes and y'all got 3 or 4 lines and that's the best you can give me? My thing is, you're talking about the votes for the county. The most important piece, the voting. These are the people make decisions on everything dealing with the county as far as voting is concerned. They make a decision on the budget for the board. They make a decision on the personnel. They make a decision on the supervisor, the leader. They make a decisions on balance of votes and all the other good stuff like that. And we get the wrong superintendent in there, and shouts out Billy. I think Billy has done a phenomenal job the last 4 or 5 months. But we get the wrong people in them seats, they're going to get rid of Billy. And Billy has done more for black people. I'm going to say it for right. He's done more for black people and the votes going on in black people than the last 15 years that we've been getting from the other person. But y'all won't look into that. You know what I'm saying? And I won't be surprised the wrong people get in office, they're going to get rid of Billy. And if they get rid of Billy, shame on y'all for not researching to find out who you should be voting when it comes to the Board of Elections. I ain't calling no names out. Everything is out there in writing. There is no need for me to call out. If you Google Board of Elections in 2018, in November, you will find out who won. If you Google in January of 2019, you will find out who got reappointed. It was probably January, February, who got reappointed amongst issues with regards to Stacey Abrams getting reelected. Now, I'm going to put all that together. What are y'all going to do about that conversation? I bet you y'all won't go and do the research to find out who you should really be voting for. Because the Board of Elections is probably the most greatest assets and the most greatest failure when it comes to the voting process in Chatham County. There's no way we should be suffering as far as the suffrage we go through when it comes to voting rights. When was the last time? Every time you ask the Board of Elections in the past, and I agree with that person. Yeah, I mean, it's not transparent. Every time I have asked the questions with regards to voting precincts, not having enough machines, or not having the power, or not having the right people working in those offices or those polls, or not having this right here. The best you can come with is saying the fact that the Democratic Party didn't come up with poll watchers this year. We don't ever do poll watchers this early in the game. It's early in the game because you know what? It's Democrat versus Democrat, Republican versus Republican. The reason why you have 70 Republicans out there trying to keep a balance on this piece right here, because all their major races are contended races, and they have a split in the Republican Party. So therefore, that's why they're showing up in drones to make sure they fix that problem. That's not a problem in the Democratic Party. Well, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, there's a lot of other issues we should be addressing, but I'm not bringing that conversation here. I will talk about it next week, Friday, though, because there's a lot of shenanigans going on out here, but I'll talk about that next week, Friday, if I need to. See, that's where we keep losing out at. We are not following the real conversation because we get caught up in the bow tie, the show tie, and all the other crap tie. But we need to be making sure we follow what we need to be following. And the balance of that is the balance of power. And the biggest part of the balance of power is this: the GOP is smart. They are working on fixating the narrative to keep the governor in play. They're doing that through the Board of Elections. You know how they're doing that through our Board of Elections? By the balance of power about who they put as far as in those two seats. And then the two seats work together, the two Democrats and two Republicans. In 2019, they appointed a board chair. And that board chair was the same board chair that messed up the election results in 2018. So are we gonna look at the fact that if this man gets put in office a third or fourth term, who's really at fault? You can't say you didn't know about it, because my thing is we're gonna know who went out there and voted and who didn't go out there and vote. If you're not willing to understand and learn the balance of this conversation, then you're not taking the time. I can tell you right now, we've been more you've heard more vocalization comes onto the board and more transparency coming onto the board the last 4 months than we've ever had the last 8 years. The last person who was transparent, God bless the dead, was Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones was probably the last, and then she stayed in that seat past her balance, but she probably was the most transparent person out there on the board. But if we're not following the numbers, we're not following the rules, then we're going to keep losing. And I can talk about the Board of Elections. You know why? Because the Board of Elections is qualified through the Democratic Party locally. And I'm not calling any names out. I will congratulate those two people who win, whether it's an incumbent or whether it's not an incumbent. I will go ahead and give them congratulations. And as far as that's concerned, but we got to stop playing politics in our own camp. Because my thing is, if you're going to vote for somebody because of relationship, because I like that person, because that's my homegirl, or because that's my boo, or that's my best friend, or we went to church together, or we grew up together, we went to the skating rink together, or that's my soror, or that's my church mate, or I dated them back in high school, or any of these other relationships, or that's my mentor, and we can't find the factual information over the last 4 years. If they're incumbent, let's find out what they did the last 4 years as an incumbent. If they didn't do nothing as an incumbent, why would you put them back in office? I'm the biggest fan as far as getting new people when our people are not doing the job. And if they're not incumbent, then guess what? Let's give them people an opportunity to rise to the top, because cream always rises to the top. Because my thing is, I'm all about making the narrative better for our people. That's why I wanted to talk about that so bad. So now I'm getting down to my last 7-8 minutes. Is one more thing I got to talk about, and those are those state seats, those nasty, dirty, filthy, raggedy state seats. Now we've seen over the balance of the last 6-8 months to a year, those state seats have been showing their tail, showing they behind. They've been showing it off completely. They've been showing it like it ain't no show tomorrow. And so we want to talk about how they're showing it. So now that's another thing that's local. We vote local, but these people carry a lot of power. There are 6 state reps and 3 state senators as far as January 1st of 2023. We will inherit a 3rd state senator. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Before I go into the state seats, state senate seats, let me go to the state rep seats. So in that balance of power, you got 3 seats that have been held by Democrats. You got 3 seats that have been held by Republicans. So that's a balance. That's an equal equation. Now, in the state Senate, up until January 1st of 2023, next year, the state Senate had 2, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican. So in the state, when we come out with the state delegation or the Chatham state delegation, there are 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. We inherited another person. So now there's 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats. Okay, I'm going to leave these hands up for y'all. All right? Y'all got it? All right. So I'm going to leave these hands up for y'all. It's 9 total. I'm sorry, let me make sure I'm right. Yeah, it's 9 total. It used to be 8, now it's 9. Okay. Now, for anything to get passed, according to the rules of the local state delegation, you need 4 reps. So that means 3 Republicans, if they can get 1 Democrat, they can get something through. And then they need 2 state reps, 2 state senators. Y'all got it? 4 reps, 2 state senators. Y'all got it? Now, Republicans only need 1 crossover person. Get that 1 crossover person, guess what? They got what they need, because if 2 people were running for state senate, mind you, the guy that's running for the 4th state senate district 4, he's already in. He has no competition. The Democrats did not find a person to run against this person. It's not my fault. It's not nobody's fault. They didn't find a person to run against this person. Now, I will say this candidly clear and crystal clear on this conversation. They didn't give us the balance of the jurisdiction until the week before early voting started. So when we were going in the system, people that could have ran, we didn't know they lived in that jurisdiction. Because if we knew they lived in that jurisdiction, we would have ran them. I.e., Godly Station. Godly Station was originally not in the map. All of a sudden, poof, Godly Station ended up in the map. And so guess what? We lost an opportunity to be able to run somebody because this whole redistricting process was a foul up, a muck up from jump. Now, they can't do that in 2 years. So what we got to do now is we got to make sure we get the balance of 2 state senate seats. Conversation. Lester Jackson, who moved up the higher pastures, he left the state senate seat 2, and he has 2 Democrats running and 2 Republicans running. So you have 4 people running for that 1 seat. All right. Over in state senate district 1, you have 2 people, and it is a contested race. I'm saying this on air. It is a contested race. Even though nobody wants to consider it a contested race, it's a contested race. And you're going to understand why I say that come June and July, because I'm going to remind folks that it was a contested race. I'm going to remind folks they should have been talking to the person who's running for the 1st district, because it is a contested race, because state law does not give jurisdiction of that state senate area. And that means that that person who is not legally or not bound by that district that person who is going to win is running against is really in a contested race. But the young man he's running against has health issues, and we pray that he can get past those health issues. That's why he didn't contend it. That's why he didn't go after it. That's why he's just silently having a campaign until after May the 24th. But that whoever wins on that contested race in the 1st state senate 1 is going to go against the incumbent. And so there's going to be an incumbency run right there for the state district 1, and there's an incumbency run in state district 2. Now, what that means is more than likely state district 2 is going to be won by whoever wins the Democratic primary, because I don't see either one of the candidates, and they're good people, but I just don't see neither one of the candidates beating whoever wins on the Democratic primary. So you're going to have a balance of, even though they got to go through a race, you're going to have a balance of district 4 has a Republican, and more than likely district 2 will have a Democrat. So that means in district 1, whoever wins that race between the incumbent, the 12-year incumbent versus the newcomer to the block, whoever wins that district right there pretty much is going to control the balance of the state delegation. That's powerful conversation. But where are we talking about that at? Nobody's talking about that, because you know why? Everybody is so focused on one election that doesn't change the narrative as quick as the one election that would. Chatham County, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something if you did not know this before. The state delegation has way more power and authority of what goes on locally with your dollars than the federal seat of the 1st congressional district. We can talk about all the other stuff in the world, but the most powerful seat right now is the winner of state senate district 1, because we know whoever wins the Democratic primary in state district 2 is going to more than likely win the election. We already know that we're going to end up with 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. Now, you do have 2 Democrats that's running in the state house seats against 2 Republicans. So you might get a different imbalance. The 165 is good, the 163 is good, and the 162 is good. So our 3 state Senate, our 3 state rep seats are locked up with Democrats. Whether you like them or not, we got Democrats running in them seats, and they're going to win those seats. The balance of our state house is going to be good. Now we have the opportunity to win 2 more. Now, if we can get that balance of 5, then this state Senate conversation goes out the door. However, we have an opportunity to control the narrative. Now, I'm not doing a plug for the person who's running for state Senate District 1. Y'all, if you don't know, that's Jimmy J's alternate evil person, James J. Jones. He's going to run when it needs the time to run. So that's going to happen when it happens. But what I do want to put out the narrative of this, if we're not paying close enough to the politics, we're going to get screwed, because those state that I'm gonna say it just like this: the state delegation can change Chatham Area Transit. They can change the narrative of Chatham Area Transit and who's over the state Chatham Area Transit. They can change the board of elections. They can consolidate the board of elections with the voter registration office, and then deem who will be the body over the board of elections / voter registration, and they can give it to their party group because they have the controlling interest above water. It's all kind. They can change the charter. They can strip charters away. Did you know that? As Port Wentworth, they've been trying to strip Port Wentworth charter away for the last 2-3 months. We are paying attention to the wrong politics. The best politics we got right now is your state reps and state Senate seats. But if y'all keep ignoring these seats and y'all don't want to find out where this balance of power really, 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 truly lies, then you keep sleeping. And I'm going to keep moving, and I'm going to keep talking. My time is up, y'all. I give y'all one of the best hours I probably possibly can. If y'all can't do anything, if you have not voted already, if you still contemplating on voting, I just ask you, just go into the polls, start at the top of the page, and just check off the people you know, or check off the people you trust, or check off the people that you think can do right by us. Don't take no sheet in there. Don't take no sheet unless you done did your research on that sheet. Don't take nobody else's opinion, conversation, anything like that into the polls. Because when you do that, you don't know how you're setting yourself up for failure come November the 8th when you don't have the right representation. So when it comes down to next week, Tuesday, today ended all voting. So we're going to know the balance of all votes as far as early voting is concerned, because that's over. That period is done. We'll know the balance of absentee ballots, because like I told you earlier, 3,500 people apply for the ballot, absentee ballots. Right about 1,400 people early this week have already submitted those ballots. So we're already you're already a third all the way replied. And I guarantee the rest of those names will be coming through sometime this week, because I didn't have a chance to ask for the numbers. But understand this, when I say this, and I say it loud and clear, whatever you do everything you possibly can. If you have not had a chance to turn in an absentee ballot or been able to go early voting, do everything you possibly can to go into the polls. You got to go to your polls. You can't go to Eisenhower. You can't go to any other polls but your own individual polls. Go to your polls. Go to myvoterpage.com. Go to the Secretary of State page. Find out where you need to be voting at. I didn't say my number before. Just text me, 912-228-2205. I'm not answering the phone, but if you text me, I'll text you the link, and I'll tell you how to get on there. Please make sure that you do what is necessary. Do what is right when it comes to this conversation. I appreciate y'all taking the time to listen to me. I'll see y'all next Friday, and I'll see you at the polls on next week, Tuesday. Peace, y'all. Y'all be good. Pardon me. Pardon me. Pardon me.